Next speaker is Dr. Susan Richardson, and she is going to be speaking on the topic of the 5 questions for ethical decisions. So at Princeton University, Dr. Susan Richardson co-teaches a popular course on workplace responsibility and applied ethics from which students take tools that they can internalize and translate into daily decisions going forward, including in entrepreneurship, finance, and tech. She is co-author with David Miller of a book based on the Princeton course, and it is currently being piloted as a textbook. The 5 questions for ethical decisions, how to succeed without selling your soul. Susan, I am thrilled to have you here joining us today. Welcome.
This is wonderful. Y'all, this day has already been transformative. I'm lucky to be in your company, and thank you all to the whole team. I mean, to Brett, Jen, Tara, who's already amazingly handling all these logistics. Corey, shout out. Good to see you, my friend. And all of you for sharing valuable time here. Corey. And again, my apologies. I haven't been able to be here for the whole time. Like for many of you, I had 1 class this morning. I have 2 more this afternoon. So 99 students, and I are really happy to be joining you. But holding this space for this really hugely important, melding of so many things that cross so many values, work, entrepreneurship, all these threads are so valuable to all of us, but especially what's been already transformative to me is the combination of really solid intellectual grounding and thorough faith infusion and applicability. I'm too used to seeing these things kept separate. And then our great love for the classroom, and that's where I'm coming to you from. With all its challenges, I know we love and feel called to that space. And so thank you for celebrating and furthering the there that this really is. I'm happy to just right quick pull the curtain back a bit on what we're up to at the Faith and Work Initiative at Princeton University and see if it's helpful to you. And mainly, I would love to learn from and connect with you. The Faith and Work Initiative, I won't do a lot of repeating of what's on the website. In fact, let me just put into the chat right quick my email. I'd already put my LinkedIn profile, and I need to sort of shorten it. Let's see that. Okay, that is. Here is the email. And I'll explain that link to you in just a moment. That's the book we have coming out. And then here is a link to the Faith and Work Initiative. But the Faith and Work Initiative been in existence there since around 2008 or so, when it was founded by our director, David W. Integrated and cross-departmental space. We're housed in the Keller Center for Entrepreneurship and Education, and that's within the engineering quad. And interestingly, we find ourselves in so many spaces across campus and beyond campus and thought leadership places like this, on panels around things like AI and bioethics and bioengineering and the application of religious concepts. What I feel like we're able to do is help folks with tools and sort of lowering the static. People who really want to bring in questions that derive from these great faith traditions of the world, or in particular Christianity, often don't feel comfortable bringing these different languages into the same space. The technical language of their professional field, and then the language of faith. And as an entirely secular organization, which we are, we feel like we're able to offer those tools and help guide people to the space and lower that anxiety, and thus just bring so much, help give so much more capacity to those conversations. More specifically, within FWI, and why I'm here today, is my colleague David created years ago, beginning there, when he made FWI, a course that became a signature Princeton course, and it's the one that Jen described. It's cross-listed between engineering, entrepreneurship, and religion. The thing is that, and it's the one that's professional ethics and responsibility. It was the students who subtitled it "Succeed Without Selling Your Soul." But it very quickly and over the years has attracted students from across campus, We have some folks who are going into finance and going straight to Wall Street, and we've got lots of folks who are going into sociology or psychology, or the computer science, or the School of Public and International Affairs. So, and in fact, we qualify as a required ethics course for them. So it quickly became my point here being tools that David was honing and developing over the years that ended up being applicable to a wide range of folks in a wide range of majors. And I'll tell you what those tools are right now. That's what I think we have to offer. For just a little bit more about me, for years I had worked with him in a freelance capacity with writing and editing. We both went to Princeton Seminary, and that's when I, after that, helped him edit his dissertation into the book God at Work, which some of you might know. But I'm also an ordained Episcopal priest and had worked full-time in parish ministry for many years, always helping David on the side. But 3 years ago, was lucky to be able to flip those proportions and come to work full-time for him at Princeton, and then still do that kind of parish work on the side. Also, more personally, I'll add household, coming to you from the College of New Jersey, where I'm also adjunct faculty, and I've taught world religions for many years. But with the course that we had developed at Princeton, and I came on board there to assist in the teaching there. I do the small breakout groups, and he would do the plenaries. And the breakout groups are the cream. That's the best, because that's where you can really sit down and engage students in these very questions that y'all are talking about. But over the years, he had developed in this course some really great pedagogical tools, focusing in on 5 key questions that I will share with you in just a sec. But we found that those questions, again, had struck the sweet spot that we've already talked about, of being very solid academically, and yet also being able to cut through very quickly to the personal levels of students' lives, to ask those kinds of personal awareness questions that all the speakers have already spoken so very well to, and their worth, their values, the difference they want to make in their lives. But the questions, the core 5 questions that he had redacted all of the background down to, were things that were easy for students to internalize and carry forward, so that when they're in an ethical thicket and they're really facing questions of good and bad, they're not going to go pull a volume of Kant off the shelf. But what we hope they will do is remember these questions in an interior way. So he had, and one of the links that you'll see I put in there is to the Princeton University Press page. The book will be out in the spring, but if you want to sign up to be updated there, please do, to know when it comes out. And I'll be developing a website that is dedicated to the book, and especially to resources for those of us using as a textbook. The last thing I'll name, and then we'll look at those questions, is that I'm piloting here at the College of New Jersey this semester 2 versions of that Princeton course, and using this book, watermarked from Princeton University Press, as a textbook. And I want to tell you, it is just going wonderfully. The tools translate very well pedagogically, and they don't lose their integrity at all. Going into a public state college with a whole wide range of majors. But here we go. Let me show you those questions. Let me share my screen and let you know exactly what it is that I'm referring to here. So let's see, can you all see the PowerPoint? Yep, okay, great. So here are the 5 Qs. And again, it's meant to be a process. They don't need to be standalone. So we talk about what ethics is, what the source of students' ethics is or are, including religious sources, and then also classical philosophical traditions. But the thing is, depending on the context, we can also map those onto the religious sources. Third, what is your own ethical decision-making framework? In other words, what is your process, and what do you want it to be? And the thing about students is to say, you might not have thought of it this way, but you've had a process. You've had your sources, you've had your gut checks, you've had your people you look to as models. But if we formalize it and lift it to a higher level of awareness, and research supports all this, we know that then you'll be more able to have it for you going forward, and to make sounder decisions and more ethical decisions, more moral decisions. But it's not just for you. The fourth question is, how do you take it on the road, whether you're talking to colleagues or a boss or larger stakeholders or a public? And finally, we want you not to use this just once, but rather tips and tricks for keeping this strong for your whole life through, coming back to the question of the kind of life you want to live and the kind of person that you want to be and what you want to think. You want your future self to look back and thank yourself now for doing this. So that's a little bit, that's a flyer for the book. I'm just going to go quickly here because I know I'm almost at time. Goodness. These are, if we had had more time, these were just some of the ways I get into it in the class, and I'll use polls. But the point is, I ask them to really think about their own lives and apply it very carefully. Um, we immediately get to questions about did they make an ethical mistake that day? Did they do anything this week that they thought was iffy? We really get right down into the weeds really quickly. And even if they don't consider themselves religious, and this is an interesting demographic in that way, um, is it layered in somewhere where it shaped someone who shapes you? Or we look at all the stats from Pew and everywhere else. If you may not consider yourself religious, but what about the people you're working with or for? And then coming back to the research that shows that we think we're consistent, we think we're clear, but we humans are not. And this is all the stuff that the great faith tradition tells too. And I'm able to go into more detail in that. I could do a lot of code switching, as a priest and a professor. It always depends on exactly where I am. Um, but the fact that our faith traditions know that it's hard for us to stay on track. And so these are ways to help you do that. But again, great research to pull on here. Whichever code you want to use, it's all there. We talk about how easy it is to get in trouble. We talk about the biases, and these are all part of the 5 questions. They're embedded in there in the book and would be easy to translate into your own pedagogical situation. Things can impact our decisions more than we realize. So, but what all this shows us and what research shows us is that there are constructive ways to deal with that, and that is external processes a framework like the one that we advocate that we can rely on to help us step back from all that human squirreliness. Okay. I get them to think about the experiences they already have. We talk about the fact that most of us are somewhere in the middle. We're not perfect, we're not awful, but we want to be good, but we're still capable of slipping up. We talk about everyday decisions, not just the big ones, but it's often cumulative. So the point is we need some help as humans, and that's where these 5 Qs come in. And that's the process, and especially the Q3 right in the middle, that's going to help them think about the kind of impact they're having, the kind of life they want to live. And as y'all have already so well indicated, oftentimes at this stage of life, they haven't really thought that much about it. So I know we're already up at time, and I will stop the share for a moment. I'm really happy to go into any further detail, but I would love to hear about how this connects with you and any questions you have offline.
This is great, Susan. I need to get the book and I'm excited about that textbook. Such great information there. Okay, so I do have a question for you. And this is the question that was asked. Why do the students think that you are helping them not sell their souls? What's at stake there, especially for entrepreneurship or business students?
I think it comes down to some of the things that we have already spoken about here, but I think we have to first lift up, as the other speakers have already so well indicated, what is soul? And it's not that, depending on the context, I can't do a super deep dive on that with them, but the point is, how do they already feel they've been compromised? Are there times when they feel bad about a decision? Have they had to do restorative ethics? Who are their models that when they think of that person, they think, oh, that person wouldn't like what I did, or that person would like what I did. So you really have to get to, in a way, what their bodies have told them in the past and decisions that they've made. How did that feel? Did you leave something of yourself on the table that you didn't want to do? And then you build that out and look at all the levels of impact that can have, including in the presentations that they do, 2 really good ones today. I always think the presentations they do are on an ethical quandary that they think they might run into in a field that they're interested in.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much. I know that was quick, but you provided some great information, and I'm excited for our attendees to connect with you. Thank you so much, Susan.